Welcome back everyone to another video with Argo. I'm D-Rec and today I want to discuss why is Dueling Dragon Zanbaku so inexpensive even though it's one of the better decks in Standard post AL4 release. It's crazy to think about how in Japan it was performing so well and dominating against other decks, especially OTT, which everyone still kind of views as the other top tier deck, and it is. Its only direct counter is Zanbaku post AL4 release, but Zanbaku has a really solid matchup against pretty much every other clan until Golds and Angels get their support and their abilities to superior ride during the main phase or the battle phase or whatever else have you, and get around the whole ride and untap lock. But it's crazy to think that it's so good yet so inexpensive, and it's almost unjustified. Or is it? Let's take a little trip down memory lane all the way back to OG era Vanguard, back when it first got some core support in set 5. Back at that point in time, they had just gotten enough support to put together a complete deck, and you had Mandala Lord as the primary grade 3 for the deck, and even at that point in time, it was still very bare bones. That was the most support it had ever gotten up until that point, and even before that, you had Kagura with a ton of support, you had Royals with a ton of support. I think Granblue even had more support than that. And at that time, your main decks were The End, MLB. At that time, we had gotten some early Limit Break support to get caught up, so we had Ezel, Spectral Duke, Cosmo Lord. Other decks of that time period were just better than Murakumo could ever have been with Mandala Lord, and there was no getting around it. Murakumo just wasn't a good archetype. And then you get to Limit Break and Break Ride era. You have the Magatsu Ride Chain. You have Hayaki Vogue. You've got Kagura Bloom, the Break Ride. And that was some of the best support Murakumo ever got. And I think at that time, one of my friends ended up taking the deck to one of the BCSs, and I think Rochester ended up getting 26th with Hayaki Vogue. It was a good deck, but it wasn't a great deck compared to Duos, Blouse, Dauntless Nivelle, Minerva. Those were all decks that consistently appeared at high level events, and we didn't even see any more good support until we got to G. We're not even going to talk about Legion. But going into G, we get Yasue, and Yasue had a really good restanding Vanguard, but no really solid finisher. It didn't have any good main deck support that could easily overtake another deck, and the strides themselves, you only had the restanding Vanguard, which that was it, nothing else, until it got more support in set 10, and even then it wasn't that good. And then you go all the way to set 13 and it finally gets some semblance of something good, and it's just not enough to compete with decks like Angels, Overlords, Luard, ZTBs, etc. And throughout its entire lifetime, Murakumo really never had any type of support that was just overwhelmingly solid and good and allowed it to compete in high tier play. Until now, where we have Dueling Dragon Zanbaku having a solid counter to pretty much every other deck in Standard and being really solid by comparison. It has a really aggressive early game. It has a really hard control grade 3 turn, and a really high capacity to finish the game on that turn or the next turn after that. And it's still really cheap. And I think by comparison, in this community, it's not so much about what decks top, but it's also about what decks are popular. Because there's a big and fine line between what's good and what's popular. And that's kind of why you look at decks like Luard and Premium, or you look at Bermuda as a whole clan, and decks that are good may not necessarily be expensive, because we also have archetypes and clans that are popular, like Bermudas. Everyone loves their waifu bait, and you've got SPs and higher than SPs that are worth in the high double digits to the low triple digits, and they're not even good cards. They're just really collectible for people in this community because it's a very popular archetype. And Murakumo never really satisfied either of those conditions going throughout its lifetime. It never really was a popular archetype in the community, and it never was really good. So there was never really a happy medium where it could be at some stable value. It was always low value, low tier, and never really played a role in competitive meta. So now that we're finally seeing it really play a role in competitive meta, there may be a point in time where the price ends up shifting. So you look at maybe the middle of November and we see that $10, $11 price tag shoot to maybe $18 to $22 a copy, and then the SVR to $30, $32 a copy. But we don't know that yet because it's one of those clans that never really had anything until now, and it would be almost surprising to see it be so expensive because the public perception is, we understand that it's good, but if it were ever to get that expensive, we wouldn't be able to mentally justify that it could be that expensive. And I think eventually it will get to that point, and it will still be very popular because it's good. So hopefully we see something come from this, and we see some pretty diverse meta going into the next few sets, because that would be really positive for the standard format. As it is right now, it's a very bland and very generic until we see some more post-AL4 tournaments and some post-AL4 meta shifting that will make it a bit more diverse and a bit more dynamic in terms of play. That's it for me from this video. If you guys ended up enjoying today's discussion, be sure to leave a like, and if you want any more discussion from me or any other types of videos like deck profiles, matches, etc., you can be sure to subscribe, keep those notifications on, because I'll be doing more like that in the future. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.